Okay, today is October the 19th, Saturday, and getting the first look at the Melissa Miller drift car. Unfortunately, there's a lot of problems with the vehicle right now. Um, Mainly just the way it was kind of assembled, I think is a large problem with it. Um, I could see this complicating a lot of issues with originally tuning the vehicle, and then just a lot of reliability issues. Unfortunately, from what we're thinking about right now, is that these issues have ultimately detonated the vehicle to death. A few numbers that we were kind of looking at, just so you can see at home. We ran it and did a compression test on it. 1 through 6, we're sitting at a combination and a variation between 150 and 170. That was when we ran it cold. Running it hot, we're sitting at about 150 all through 1, 2, and 3, but 4 actually had a pretty good drop in at about 140. Then an inconsistency of 155 at cylinder number 5. And then number 6 was sitting at 140. So there's definitely something going on internally that we're just not liking. But there's just so much going on with the vehicle as far as just the vehicle not being put together correctly. Again, here at EP Racing, what they were responsible for is just putting together a long block for them. That's where they actually assembled the lower part of the block, and then of course fitted the heads to the vehicle. But again, with detonation, the way it looks like, there's no way anybody could save this. So getting back to it, some of the problems that we found, there's actually no oil pressure hooked into the vehicle. There's no way to read it at all. The gauges that are hooked up in the vehicle are basically just not even wired. There's no wiring to attach them to. The original stock gauge too as well is no longer functional also. So the vehicle is fitted with an AEM version 2. But the problem with the AEM version 2 is there's no software on the dash at all to read it. So basically you're just kind of hoping and praying that tuning is going okay. That's one of the big issues that we saw. The spark plugs were basically just burned up, which kind of led us to believe that there's detonation. Going down the line, there's the original harness that was in the vehicle that was used for this motor build is horrible. There's corrosion on a lot of terminals, and a lot of connections are just broken. It's not a way I would have cut some of my costs. But again, this is what we're dealing with right now. There was a lot of the way the vehicle's just loosely put together. There's not a lot of connecting rods, brackets. It was basically just a kind of zip tied all in there together. Which obviously is going to cause problems with running stability with the pieces kind of being in place. It's just not a way I would have ran a vehicle, especially for a drift car. It's just a lot of unsafe things. So we're going to take a look at that and see if we can probably help out and correct this. Passenger side intercooler, there's a lot of chafing and rubbing. A lot of the fins are bent, and a lot of the connection to the intercooler is only hanging on by one bracket. On the right side. On the left side, it's the same thing. There's basically no brackets to attach it to. It's only holding on by the couplers themselves, and a zip tie, which is kind of sad. The power steering cooler, which was one that was actually added in because the vehicle doesn't come stock with a power steering cooler, which is something I usually recommend for most drift cars. Unfortunately, this is like maybe some other GM aftermarket, just a rough looking power steering oil cooler. It is just dented all to hell, and you're probably getting almost zero to no cooling out of it anyway. Very little benefit there, so we're going to recommend that we try to swap that out. The heat wrap that's all over the downpipes is just kind of coming apart and just it's flapping all over the ground, so that's an easy fix. The detonation plug was the big thing that got me. So there's the detonation sensor that's actually in the middle of the block that typically will give you some indication to the vehicle needs to be in a safety boost type of setting. Unfortunately, that is not even in the stock location that it should be. From what we're told from the folks that kind of put it together, Melissa Miller and her crew, they broke something on the detonation sensor. So instead of actually going back to it and fixing it, they put it on the side of the block. Actually, if I had to guess, it's probably one of the holes for the AC bracket that goes on the left side of the block. I'll photo document all this as we go on later on in a different video, because there's just too much to document, and I want to kind of keep this particular video short. That's one problem. So that was a huge issue. That's probably one of the main reasons why the vehicle took a dive, and we basically detonated it to death. The the upper plenum bolts that we actually had on the vehicle, a lot of them weren't even tight. So the gasket from the lower plenum to the upper plenum had huge gapping marks. That was another thing that we were just kind of blown away, that the vehicle is just doing a lot of crazy things that I'm still amazed that it was idling the way it was. There is no wideband O2s. The vehicle actually is with the AM version 2. It's actually using the stock O2 sensors, which is kind of crazy to me. There's no wideband O2s for a tune that was done on the vehicle. That's pretty crazy. Basically, another thing was the PCV on the intake valve covers was actually left open. There was no cap that was on that. I'll show you, but the PCVs on the valve covers never actually had a cap. So that's how we kind of got them, which is pretty insane, because it's pouring ridiculous amounts of oil down the side of the block and pouring it out the back. I can't see that being any type of okay way to run a vehicle, especially if you're going to run like a drift or any type of autocross or anything to make this vehicle sanctionable by any type of body. I mean, that's just an insanely bad way to do that. You always want to run a catch can, block off those plates, find a different way to do it, but you never want fluids coming down on any type of track setting. I'm going to keep this video, again, really short, but there was something else I wanted to show right here. This was actually for the map sensor. It had a big long line that would actually give you the pressure. Obviously, you don't want that there. You want it directly into the manifold itself so it can get an accurate reading. That just wasn't the case. It was like all sitting out there, and it wasn't done properly. That was the other thing. It's a laundry list of just crazy stuff that just wasn't done right. Considering there's so much on the vehicle as far as donated parts from sponsors, it's interesting. As far as a track vehicle, this is one of the worst applications I've seen as far as installing. This is another thing. I mean, this is just simple stuff. Battery. That's our battery right there. We need to adjust that and move that. I mean, it's bad, just all around. Again, next video should be all the documentation for this as we begin to get into it. But our game plan from this point is to get the motor actually out of the vehicle, find out what all the rest of the problems are and the ways that things were just kind of cut and not done correctly. So with me and some other assistance from some folks, we're going to get it done today, and hopefully just move on from there as far as taking the next step and trying to correct this and turn this into an actual safe vehicle to be on any type of racing setting. But right now, I can't see it being sanctionable at all. Anyway, that's it, and we're just going to kind of move on from there. Next video should be kind of some more documentation on all the crazy stuff that's on this vehicle.